Welcome to The Compost Pile, a podcast where we break down gardening, homesteading, and more. Join your hosts, David Poole and Aaron Barnhill, as they pile up information and break it down so that you can be more successful in the garden.
Hey guys, welcome back to The Compost Pile, your source for all things gardening and homesteading. We're here out at the Giving Field. It's a community garden. I've got one of the volunteers and the people that makes this happen.
Not a volunteer.
Not a volunteer. Oh, you work here.
I'm staff.
Okay.
Yes.
So
and we're a donation garden.
So
not a community garden.
Right.
Okay.
So Mike here helps run this awesome space, and then also have Destin on the end here, Texas garden guy.
How's it going?
We're going to talk about maybe 2 or 3 things that might help somebody be more successful growing a home garden or growing plants in general. What's something that comes to your mind, Mike?
Can I ask a question first? So sure. You differentiated earlier, this is a donation garden versus a community garden. What is that?
Yes.
From a specific donor? Is that like one specific donor? Is that what it is?
No, what it is all of our organic fruits and vegetables we donate to 4 different places.
Okay.
So it's not like a community garden typically be where people could come out and like participate in growing and then harvest and
like
take
a
home.
CSA box or something like that. This is all donation.
This is essentially like this. All this is grown for the use and preparation for.
Right. We do a couple of soup kitchens.
Yep.
Some other place here down Calder and Hospitality Center in Port Arthur.
Yep.
We give to Market to Hope. They're a full-on supermarket that's open to anybody food insecure. And our last place is Nutrition Services for their Meals on Wheels program.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah. That's awesome. 4 really, really cool places. So.
Yeah, and last year we donated 6,500 pounds of fruits and vegetables to those 4 places.
That's incredible. I mean, like
that's awesome.
You look out here, this is a big space, but when you really look over at the main garden area, it's not really, it's big. It's bigger than most people are going to have, but it still speaks to the fact that you could grow a lot of food in a very small amount of space.
Right. If we take our we have 52 raised beds and 45 container gardens. About to be 47 container gardens from our donation over here. And, we grow a lot of food and we're able to rotate and we're just growing year round.
Yeah, that's cool. So what are some tips that you have learned out here in your time participating in this project that might help somebody be more successful?
I'm always hunting for shade.
Okay.
And that's something that
we were just talking about.
Yes.
A lot of people out here today, they were talking about how they like to grow things, but man, they can't get anything to grow. And I ask them about their area that they're growing in and they get 0 shade. That's, summertime here, we're 12 hours of sun,
And the heat here in
Yes.
the Texas sun is not the same as other places in our specific zone even.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've kind of found like in my backyard, like so much of learning about your area is like killing things. Like if you're not killing plants, you're not trying hard enough,
Yeah.
So like, learning your backyard and where things grow is kind of part of the journey, really.
Right.
And the last lady that was up here at the table we were talking to, I was mentioning I had a regular client who put shade over their tomato bed, and in proxy they had covered part of their okra.
Yeah.
And they came back to me and they said that the okra that was under the shade cloth actually outproduced the ones in the full sun.
Ooh.
And when we think about like okra being one of the few things that we could really grow in full sun and take the stress, like it just goes to show you that plants, they're just like us, they don't handle stress like super well. So anything we can do to
help them
create
adapt,
relief can make you more successful. And I think that really speaks to what you're talking about, how they're people in full sun, they're struggling to keep things alive.
Yes. That's it.
What else?
Getting water to the plants.
I think that for most people look out, I think they go out and they look at a space and they're like, they put their garden along the back fence and they don't think about like having to provide or drag. And even out
there.
here, a lot of the stuff out here is watered by a hose, and it is a chore dragging a hose out there.
Yes.
No matter, I don't care if it's even one of those like slinky hoses that are lightweight. It's still a chore to move that stuff around. And if you don't, I think more people should position their garden closer to the water source.
What is your preferred irrigation method?
I like the hose.
Yeah.
We have a 3,600 gallon water tank over there that ran dry yesterday. Wow. So, that we just have to clip our hose on to another hose, and it's dragging it that much further.
Yeah.
But man, getting, that rainwater, that's our preferred.
Yeah,
that's our preferred water.
Preferred fertilizer too. The rainwater, man. That's the best fertilizer you can get is rainwater.
You can see the difference. I mean, we know, especially down in this climate, we go through such dry spells, and then all of a sudden we get like a good heavy rain, and it's like everything just shoots up.
Right.
It's those plants are starving for those minerals and nutrients that are in that water that you're not going to find in the water, from a municipality.
Yeah.
So that leads right into the other thing that I told some people is, you want to have some kind of mulch.
Yeah.
Something to protect that soil. The sun's not beating down on it. The wind's not drying it out. So we have so much wind here. Something to just keep that soil moist.
Yeah, you can extend.
Keep the roots cool.
You can extend your watering.
Yes.
Our home garden is canopied by 4 oaks, so we get mostly filtered light.
Nice.
And even during the dead of summer, I don't water every day like most people out in a full sun garden. I might be watering every 2 to 3 days, and part of that is because I have mulch, but having that combination of shade and mulch makes an incredible difference. And then the plants, they don't face that stress as much.
Right.
I feel like people overthink mulch though sometimes too. Like they think they need a specific, like I got blueberries or azaleas, I need pine bark
Right.
or pine needles, and that's not necessarily true. Just use whatever's available to you. If you have pine bark or pine needles, use it.
My only thing that I tell people whenever we're dealing with mulch in a garden is you want to be conscious of like how it was created, because if you go to like the big box store and you get like the cheaper mulches, a lot of them have like large chunky matter, and that can lead to like nitrogen immobilization. So you're starving your soil and your plants from nitrogen while that's trying to compost and break down. It's a crazy problem for first time gardeners that happens to like probably 1 in 2.
I've gotten an insect infestation from some big box store mulch.
Yes.
I never had a box elder beetle ever until I went and got some like cypress no float mulch from my greenhouse, and I had them randomly. So like, definitely get local mulch, like local.
Finding things that are like, that's what's cool about a lot of your local companies. Like a lot of them the mulches they're going through a composting phase. Some of that material is going to be sifted and created into high quality composts or soils even, and you're getting things that are in your native local area that are being recycled, and it's just to me you're kind of closing the circle.
And I'll also, like right now, I use just a lot of oak leaves that have been falling. I've got bags of them over there people donate to us that we trust because they're just nice clean leaves.
Yeah.
And I like just putting those out into the garden. They take a long time to break down.
Yeah.
That is that's a crazy advantage for us. Like, and I can speak to that because like having like the oak leaves in our yard, just like our raised beds, we do pine straw in a lot of times. Some beds don't have it at all. Some of them are just covered in leaves, and I don't pull all that out. I just kind of end up working it back in, because it does provide a little aeration. But even like our landscape beds, they primarily stay covered in leaves, and I don't have weeds. I don't have a lot of I'm not constantly watering. It's acting as that mulch layer really, really well, and it does turn into like incredibly awesome compost.
I bought a small little electric chipper on Amazon, and every time I trim an oak tree, as long as it's not a big log, I'll run everything through it, including my leaves, and it kind of chips them up a little bit and throw them out there in the raised beds.
That's really nice.
It works great.
We just got one of those for the Master Gardener test garden. Yes. And those look great running them through that chipper.
Yes.
It's so nice when you can make your own mulch, man. And not only that, if you're gonna put it in your compost, it saves a lot of space too. If you're not gonna mulch with it, like I've thrown it in the compost before, and it's because I didn't have a space for it. But using it as like regular mulch is great.
I think it's like something like that too is important from like a sustainability perspective. And a lot of gardeners, they come to places like me, or they go other places and they're just buying. But there's so much that you take out of your space that can go back in and actually provide you some of the same things that you're putting in, and I think a lot of people get lost on that sometimes.
Yeah, like people who bag their lawn clippings.
Yeah,
oh my God, it's insane.
Yeah.
I can't believe people do that.
I have one client in my lawn company that I have to bag, and it's one of those things. I'm like, we don't do that here. Like you're detrimenting the soil from this organic matter and all these nutrients that you're feeding. They're in these clippings. They're going to break down, and some of it's going to go back into the soil. So it's people just don't know. It's like kids coming here and learning where food comes from.
Right. That's a really big thing here. All the kids that come through and help out in the garden, and they're learning in the garden. They go do everything from planting from just tiny seeds. They get to see the plant come up. They get to harvest from the plant. Here across the street at St. Anne's, we have 4th graders that start sweet potato slips, and they plant the slips in the garden, and then they come back as 5th graders and harvest them in the beginning of November.
That's awesome.
So they get to see it.
They go crazy. They go crazy.
It's such a cool concept because there's we give so many seeds and things to teachers and stuff. They're doing what they can, but they don't have the support of something like this where kids can actually see.
It's right across the street.
They understand that the plant germinates from a seed, but then what happens after that? All these kids don't get to see that, So it's cool. Like this is out here, and people are being exposed to the whole process.
I'm really excited that this time we got to partner with Trees for Houston, and we put together 300 trees that we gave away to the community.
Yeah, they went quick today. It was wild.
I see a couple over here a little bit.
Those are not there.
The other partnership we're starting is with Urban Harvest, and we're going to start growing a few things for them and just distributing those back out into the community gardens too.
That's really cool. Any other tips that you can think of that would benefit somebody while we're here?
We did that mulch, we did the water, we did sun. Hey, just get a nice fertilizer. These guys are out here, they have the MicroLife and they have the Nelson fertilizer, both organic. They work great. Read the directions. Don't put too much fertilizer.
Yeah.
That's one thing I always tell people. I need to do a better job in some of my videos of instructing how much to put out, and I'm working on that. But a lot of fertilizer runoff is not coming from these big, developments. Are coming from residential homeowners. They're putting out too much fertilizer. Follow the instructions and read them carefully so that you're not creating issues on the runoff and then the groundwater and everything.
Yep, all that stuff ends up somewhere else,
Yes.
Even though people think that those granules, they're not going anywhere, but it's what comes out of fertilizer and other things and breaks down.
Definitely need to be responsible. Definitely need to be
responsible.
A lot of our volunteers that come out and help out, they're surprised that I'll show them that we're weighing the fertilizer.
Okay, yeah.
Even per bed, or we're measuring it out. And they're like, oh, we just fertilizer. We just, toss out handfuls.
I can say I'm guilty of that,
I'm pretty good about eyeing, what I need to do. But really, until you see how much that really is,
you don't really have any idea.
You're saving a lot of money because you're usually putting way too much out.
Yep.
And then on the other side, often I find from a retail perspective, coming from moving primarily as a business from being only chemical driven fertilizer to having hybrid type fertilizers that contain different elements of both, and then strictly organic. A lot of people they don't put enough because they're too scared to put too much from what they've been taught or what they've seen growing up, and so some people aren't providing enough nutrition on the other side of things, and I see that a lot.
Yes.
So we had a couple people come and ask us about this today, about planting trees, planting stuff in the ground. Y'all have all your stuff out, and they'd be considered raised beds, even the cinder block ones. They're about 8 inches up. If you're in the Beaumont area and you're planting a tree, what is your preferred method? When y'all plant trees, y'all go straight into the ground? Because I gotta imagine the soil probably here is very clay. It holds a lot of moisture.
But
how do y'all combat that?
really, you don't really, because you just, from my understanding, you just want to plant in the native soil.
Native soil, yeah.
You don't want to do anything else. But what we'll do is, like, your pot's this big, we dig a hole twice as big, and you usually where the soil in the pot, that wants to be even with the soil you're digging out of. We just don't do anything special. We just keep it watered and hope for the best.
Right.
We always backfill, like, even as, like, installing ornamental landscapes, like, we backfill with the soil we dug out first, because they, people are like, oh, the soil's no good. Well, it isn't, but just because you put good soil in the hole doesn't mean that plant is going to stay in that good soil its whole life.
Right.
The roots are going to grow out, and if you trick that plant into thinking that it has, like, this loose, perfect conditioned soil, and then all of a sudden those roots hit that, like, clay soil, it's going to get shocked at a later stage. And oftentimes that's, like, in the summer when it's hot and it's stressful, and then that plant dies or gets really, really stressed, and then they don't know what they're doing wrong. So you don't need to buy garden soil and things like that, or landscape soil to plant your stuff in. Amend your soil if it's really compacted with something like an expanded shell. You can pack that into the holes to help long-term make that soil better, but you got to use what you took out first.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're creating a soup bowl for all
And
the
that
water.
it can act like a pot. That those roots will just stay in that little area. They don't want to go out into that.
I mean, roots, plants, water, it goes the path of least resistance.
I've got my pomegranate at home, and it's in a 17-inch tall by 2-foot wide raised bed, and the roots are doing fine in there, and they're actually starting to come out, but they've gone up into other raised beds. I've seen the roots go from, because my soil in my backyard is so bad, it doesn't drain.
It
goes into other raised beds next to it. It's wild.
I've got beds like that.
Yes.
Either one of the oak trees or the magnolia that I just lost, we had 2 raised beds that we couldn't grow anything in, and I couldn't figure out why. When we finally cut the magnolia down, we started digging in there. The whole thing was full of fibrous fine roots.
Yep.
And it was basically starving all the vegetables and flowers of nutrients and water. And we ended up having to, we basically sifted through all of it, got it out, and now we're finally being able to grow stuff in it. And it's incredible.
Sweet potatoes, you've been talking about sweet potatoes are crazy. They'll do some stuff like that. They'll throw some crazy roots out like that. It's nuts.
We haven't planted any sweet potato slips yet, but we have sweet potatoes coming up.
Because you never harvest them all.
You'll never get rid of them. Hey, but you can eat the whole thing. You can eat the whole, the tuber, the vine, everything. So
I've seen people strip the vine and the outer part of the vine and cook it up like a spaghetti.
Yeah.
That's
I have not tried that.
Yeah.
It seems labor intensive, but
it does.
But the leaves are good. Just take off
are.
the leaves.
Oh yeah.
Nice tender leaves.
Well, awesome. I think that's some good points that maybe people can find useful. So hope you found something useful out of this episode, and we'll catch you here next time on the Compost Pile.